Welcome to another episode of HashWise Convo. Today joining us is Ram, a core contributor from OpenLedger. We are thrilled to have you here, sir. How is it going?
Doing good. How are you, Homer? I'm really happy to be here. Good to connect with you as well.
Yeah, I'm great. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Before we dive in, could you maybe a little bit introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, I'm Ram. I'm one of the core contributors of OpenLedger. So I've been in the industry from 2017. I think I recently told this somewhere as well. I got paid in Bitcoin. That's how I got into the industry. got to know, got to know about the tech after getting paid in because it is quite interesting. Someone could pay me across the globe using a currency. I got it in like 10 minutes, and I started loving the technology back then. Wanted to build a company around that. That's how it started. It started as a small passion project, and then we became a larger team to about 200 plus employees. This is back in like 2021 during the last bull run, and it is quite wild. And that's where we had the opportunity to work with a lot of Web2 larger companies and help them get into Web3, like Walmart's India subsidiary Flipkart, and we worked with Sony, Viacom, and many more firms as well. So I had that interesting opportunity. I got to work with a lot of protocols, header hash graph, Polygon, and many more protocols as well. So got a lot of experience about the industry through that. Always been passionate about data. We always wanted to bring data on chain. That always was one of the biggest things that we want to build as a product, right? So been doing some R&D around during the the bear market, right? That's when you get a lot of time. That's when we were doing a lot of R&D around that, and then figured, okay, now is the time to get in and build something cool and help be a core contributor to OpenLedger and do this. So that's how we got into building what we're doing right now at OpenLedger. So it's a project which is focused around data in AI. If you take a look at AI, there is compute, there is algorithms, models, and then there is data, right? These are the three biggest bottlenecks of AI. I think compute and models will become a commodity after some time, even though the technology might change, but it will become a commodity. But data is something which we produce almost every other day, and data is the new oil, right? Even though it's infinite, but it's still precious, and it's at pockets that we were not able to access. And data changes a lot of how a model performs, right? So it's the fuel that drives a model. So that's what kind of enabled us to think more about data and AI. And that is what is OpenLedger. OpenLedger is it's a data blockchain for AI. So yeah, so that's
Yeah,
the quick background about myself and what is OpenLedger.
that's really cool. Thank you for that. What was like your core motivation behind the project? Because when you look on the whole landscape of crypto, you have AI project there, AI project here, these using AI for
Yeah.
that. So AI is everywhere in these days. Like, what was your specific motivation to, run OpenLedger?
Yeah, um, so one of the reasons we wanted to contribute to OpenLedger is that, again, as you told, AI is everywhere, but I think that's inevitable, right? It's like um, back in the days, if you ask if every company was an internet company, yes, because internet was a general purpose technology. Before that, there was modern computers. Before that, there was electricity, right? Whenever there is a general purpose technology, I think it's going to be adopted everywhere, and that's how AI is. And we've always seen this whenever there's a hype, everybody wants to get in, but it's the firm and the team which stands the initial hype, which would be relevant. So I guess we all fight for that. We all fight to be relevant in this industry. So yeah, so what got us into AI is, as I told you, like we always wanted to bring data on chain and figure out ways we can enable data to be much more useful. And we always saw this void that even though AI today is what it is, but still it's a long way to go, right? It's going to become a technology that will be adopted everywhere in every other domain that is there. And if it has this potential and if that happens, you need very domain specific data to build better models, right? models are the core on which any agent or apps or anything is built around AI. And for that models to be unique, for that model to have the intelligence that it has today, you need to have very specialized data, right? You need to have very specialized domain specific data for models to be used in various other domains. And I don't see any platform today that is providing that. Even though there is Hugging Face and all that, those are open source projects where there is a lot of junk data, right? Even though there is pockets of data which is like really good, but majority of that is junk data. Think of that as like YouTube, like pre-monetization era of YouTube, right? Where you find a lot of junk videos and content. You don't really see like quality content over there, right? Not many people do like put their time to create videos that were useful. And once YouTube brought in this partner program and brought in this way to monetize content, we we saw people taking YouTube much more seriously. YouTubers became a profession. Businesses, I think one of the tipping point was businesses started to contribute to YouTube, right? They took it very seriously because they know they can monetize their content right now. So they started also migrating from traditional places like TV channels and all that to more YouTube focused. I think that's what should happen for AI and data as well. We should see more businesses come forward and contribute data. And you need a platform where they can confidently go ahead and monetize their data, right? Where they could trust the code, not the people, not the contract, and use a platform that will enable them to contribute data, know how the data is being used, able to view that provenance, able to see how the data influences a model, data is used within a model, and how they're going to get benefited because of the process of sharing the data, right? So there was no platform for that, and we saw there is a need for that, and started building around this. So I spoke with a lot of people as well, right? We spent almost like 3 to 4 months just analyzing and talking to experts in the industry, traveled almost every other place possible where people were building around AI. So spoke to a lot of developers, spoke to a lot of builders, and saw there is a definite need for this. And that's how we started focusing more and building OpenLedger, helping them to become what it is now. Still, lot more to do, lot more to go. Just we're at the start. So we're going testnet soon. So I guess that's where we'll start to reveal whatever that's going to be there. And so yeah, so that's sort of like how OpenLedger happened, how we came about here. There's a lot more. We'll talk more as you ask me questions around that. But yeah, so that's what
Yeah,
we
for
do.
sure. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, as you already said, I totally agree that every decentralized application in these days have many data, but they
Yeah.
cannot like use it properly. So I think that there is a
Yes.
really like a huge potential to allow them use the data and use it across their products, and target specific users. So that makes perfectly sense. My next question would be around data attribution. I know that this is
Yeah.
issue in AI in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
How does OpenLedger aim to address this?
Yeah, so see, as I was telling you, right, OpenLedger is a data blockchain for AI, and what we envision to do here is that provide a decentralized trust platform for data contributors to come forward, collaborate, and build like specialized models on top of us. And as I was telling you, if AI is going to become a general purpose technology and it's going to be used in every other domain that is possible, you would need to have like specialized models that will serve these. We all know about large language models that have been used in various apps today, chatbots and all that. These are larger language models which are predominantly trained on internet data, right? They've scraped internet data and they've trained these models with that, and it is intentionally done that way so that there is large amount of data. About 80% of the data might not be really relevant. Only about 10% of the data would be relevant. But that's still fine because you need a model which kind of understands the world as a whole, right? And it is understanding the world with the internet data that we feed it with. But like if you go forward and start using a model for a specific use case, like maybe like a programming language which is very unique, like Solidity, or if it's going to be used for like creating media content, or if it's going to be used for like I know processing like insurance audits and stuff like that, you would need that particular domain's data. and that usually is not available on the internet. That is behind paywalls. That is usually behind the company's records. Various firms out there who have proprietary data. This could be a subject matter expert or an enterprise or an individual startup itself who would want proprietary data that is quite valuable, which could enable a lot of processes to be automated, right? So, in order for that to happen, you need to build a platform that can let these businesses come forward and contribute the data, and also to make sure these contributors are attributed back, right? Because why would a business start to contribute data if it's going to be a one-time sale? I'm going to contribute if you're going to buy the data from me as it is. There's no point in me going ahead and contributing data to you because I'm not going to pay it again. It's going if I give you the data, you probably someone else would make a derivative version of that, and my data would never be relevant again. So that's what we are trying to solve here. We are building a platform where businesses or a subject matter expert can go ahead and contribute data to a particular topic or a domain, and then we could train models with that. We'll be able to fine tune models with that. Think of them or as smaller models with intelligence of that particular domain and with the data that is being provided. And these models are available on the platform, which then can be used by apps, agents, or any kind of AI services out there. Right? They could infer on these models, get that intelligence. Then, as they infer, as they pay for that inference, as we all do nowadays, like we pay for the tokens that we use within any AI applications that we do. Very similarly, as they're getting paid, we make sure that the payment is attributed back. So payment is one thing. There are more other stuff as well, but the idea behind this is to attribute back to the data provider. And how we do that is what is the unique aspect. A lot of people are talking about attribution. I think it's very important. A lot of people in the ecosystem should be doing that because attribution is very important. But in attribution, there are multiple ways to do that. What we do is, I think, it's a bit different, where we believe in something called data influence model, where we use data to identify how it is influencing a model. And based on every output that comes out of a model, we measure which data point influenced that most, right? And using that, we attribute to the data point and the data provider that provided that. Because every time someone provides the data in our platform, we record it on chain, and we have the hash of the data on chain. So we'll always be able to show back which data provided this particular data. And once you're able to attribute to that data provider, you could do multiple stuff, right? First, you could reward, which is one of the most important aspects. Number two, you can let price discovery happen. Data providers, once they know how much their data is being valuable, let's say it yielded them about $10 worth of revenue, they could probably decide to provide better quality of data or much more larger quantities of data, right? So which could probably yield them much more higher revenue back to them. So there is price discovery. Someone who would have influenced lesser for every output of a model gave, they know that they could earn better potential, better revenue because the other data providers actually earn much better than because they provided high quality of data. So the price discovery happens within a platform. That's where marketplaces are built, so people can build like marketplaces on top of us. I think the third one is less spoken about, but it's going to become one of the biggest problem. We want to explain the AI much more better, right? AI today is a black box. So we would like to explain AI using data, how a data influences a model, and how we can better get data, right? Better ways to formations to get data that can give us an insight about how a model performs. That can give us an insight about what kind of data should be collecting as well. So trying to understand how a model behaves based on the data it's given is very important to make the AI much more explainable. And it's just build trust across all three players, right? So in our platform, if you take a look at it, there are the data providers, model builders, and then agents or the app builders. For all of the three stakeholders, you want to make sure there is trust and there's credibility given to all of these three providers. And how do we do that? How we make sure that we are able to show the provenance of how data travels within these three ecosystems. So a data provider, once he contributes data, he's able to see the provenance that the data is trained to a particular model, and he's able to identify that model on chain. He's able to see how that model is being used, who infers on that model, and he's able to see every time someone does an inference on the model, whether his data point was actually used there. And if it was used, what was the influence of the data point? And if he's able to figure out what was the influence, he's also able to see on chain how much he's going to get paid for that. So he's able to see every aspect of how his data travels. For model builder, once he gets to know how his model is being influenced by data, he'll be able to determine what kind of data he needs. He'll be able to set his rules much more better as well. So that's where a model builder gets benefited. He's able to figure out how the model can less hallucinate, how it can be much more efficient. He can just make the model much more efficient by knowing how the data influences. The third most aspect that as part of the value chain is the agents of the app. Because agents and apps are not there, there is no point in collecting data or building models, right? For the agents for the app, they're able to see the entire track of how the data is being collected and where it is collected, right? So they could see whether the data is being biased, where it came from, who are the data sources, and all that. So they're able to build that trust based on how a model understands data and process the data. So that's how we make sure that all the three layers that are built in a platform use proof of attribution as a center point to add value to each one of them. So yeah, so and that's one of the reasons we believe that attribution is very important in terms of contributing data to models, and that's what we're working on. And our testnet, as we announce it, we'll be announcing how our attribution works as well, and we would love to have people check that out.
Yeah, sorry, I find it really interesting, and I think that in this specific time is basically the best option to bring in the AVS, that you are actively validated service on Eigenlayer. And is there some
Yeah.
connection between your data influence model and the operators? Are the operators the ones or the players in the
Mhm.
ecosystem that choose the data, which are like correct, or trying to make
Yeah.
the model better?
Yeah, so Eigen is an important aspect of our product and our architecture, right? So we didn't want to build our own validator set. I think it's a process on its own. It takes its own time, and why do that if we have a service that can provide better security, right? That's one of the reasons we chose EigenLayer, and we believe in their thesis and believe how they, view decentralization and verification on chain. So how we use Eigen is, it's quite straightforward. Every time someone collects the data, as they contribute to a data net, which is a data repository, um, the data is validated by EigenLayer operators. So there's a set of rule engine by these datanet owners that they can write on EigenLayer's AVS, which is basically, think of that like a verification engine. As you collect data, it simply verifies the data that's being collected. It could be as simple as what kind of age group of a particular data set that you want, or it could be as complex as setting rules around what kind of code that you require for a solidity data net. So it could be varied. We keep it as permissionless as possible so people can decide what kind of rule engine they want to write. So that's how we use EigenLayer's IVS, and it's a crucial aspect of our architecture because that enables to see how the data is being collected and what kind of data is being collected. That I think that's very important. We need to make sure that data is verifiable as we collect it. That also enables the next process where we move the data on chain. So it's an important step of whatever we're building at OpenLedger.
Yeah. And how does OpenLedger incentivize data contributors to ensure fair attribution?
Yeah, so there is multiple aspects, right? So one thing that I had spoken about before, we want to make sure that businesses get attributed for the data that they provide. Attribution will lead to rewards. So that's sort of like the last piece of where we will end, and that's where we all want to end to. But before that, as people start contributing data, we want to make sure there is some kind of incentivization that enables people across to actually trust and contribute data to a platform where they have, it helps them for the initial bootstrapping, right? So that's where we will have like block rewards as part of OpenLedger. So anyone who's using OpenLedger's infrastructure to create a data net and let people contribute data, we would enable them to use our block rewards to reward the data contributors. And we'll be talking about that soon as well. It's very interesting, way that we've designed the tokenomics. We've been working on that for a very long time. I think incentivizing people to contribute data is an important aspect, but that should not be exploited as well. That is where we will bring in measures to avoid for that to happen, where we will let people stake and we will make sure that the rewards are claimable only after a certain point of time, as the data is being contributed. But we want to make sure that they're able to see that there is a revenue potential. They're able to see that they could earn revenue by contributing data. It'll be immediate, but it'll not be, it'll not be in a way where they can exploit the system. And I think people are very cognizant of that. So we want to make sure that the data net, the builders can use our reward mechanisms to reward their users to contribute data and contribute better and good quality of data as well. So that's an important aspect of how we would initially collect data. Then once the data is collected, obviously when the models are built and the models are actually being used by apps and agents, and wherever there is revenue potential that comes in through apps and agents, where there is a business model that has been set up, attribution starts working there. Over here, now you know that your data is useful. The model that was built on top of that has been useful, and people are starting to use that. And when people are using these models, when there is a business model, when there is a revenue that is coming in, one of the crucial players of that, which are the data contributors, have to be rewarded back. So that's where we attribute back and reward back to them. So that's the tail end of what we're doing. The initial reward mechanism is to just to incentivize, keep things exciting, motivate people to come and contribute data, and then later on a long-term business model is where we actually use the revenue that comes in by inference to reward the people who provided data. So that's sort of like the tail end and the long-term vision.
Yeah, yeah. Now I want to talk about something you mentioned already a few minutes back, and that is
Yeah,
large language models. Like, how
yeah.
do you envision OpenLedger improving the efficiency, maybe, and capabilities of LLMs?
So I wouldn't say like we're working on improvising the capabilities of LLMs, but I would say so we sort of like augmenting its capabilities. So if you take a look at it, most of the large language models, as I told you, has a general purpose knowledge, right? It would be able to do very general based actions and usages. There are multiple ways to make an LLM perform better, optimize better, or augment. You can use prompt engineering where you prompt it to do a certain kind of task. You can use RAG where you are providing your local database to actually, enable certain ways to prompt it to have a better output, right? But for a task which is very specific, where there is a need for it to be highly efficient, hallucinate less, and be very accurate, you need to make sure that you're able to fine tune with very specific data on how you want it to perform. And that's where we are augmenting, right? We take a large language model, an open source large language model, and then fine tune that with very specific domain specific data, so that we're able to create models which perform a very specific task for a very particular domain, and they're able to perform very efficiently as well. So there is less cost running those models because you're not consuming too much tokens, you're prompting less, and the outputs are much more efficient as well. So you have a better usage of the AI instead of just conversing it for a very long time and trying to get an output, right? So I would say we are like augmenting its performance and making it much more efficient, and that's how we use any large language model out there. It's like we're working with Meta's Llama's model. We're partnering with them on this. Working with other open source models as well. So the idea behind this is to take the large language model, make it much more useful for domains that we envision are going to be the future. For example, even like creating a trading agent today, you know, it would be fun to go ahead and like give it like $100 to go ahead and trade for you, or like $1,000, but you would not like bet your life saving with a trading agent, right? Because it is not as efficient as you would want it to be. So for that, you need to have a very domain specific, highly trained and less hallucinating model for that to like really turn out well. And I don't see any model today which is able to do that very specific task, right? So that's what we envision. We want to make sure that we are able to build model which is tuned for a particular intelligence that we believe people would need, and we're building this platform so that people can use that ideology and build specialized models on top of this. And so yeah, so that's how we kind of augment large language models.
Yeah, cool. Appreciate, thanks. My question, the next one, is about testnet launch. Could you share some details about your testnet
Yeah,
upcoming?
yeah, so our testnet will be live soon, probably the next couple of days. So we'll be announcing how the testnet will work. One of the most important aspects of a product, as you know, is collecting data, right? There are people who are building on top of us. The first phase of that is a data intelligence data net that is coming out. Think of that like a bedrock of data, a data pool of internet scrape data, and we would be letting people download our nodes where we could use their bandwidth to scrape internet data, and very specifically common crawls data where we are going much more vertical to go deeper into getting common crawls, sites that have been scraped. We're going much more deeper to get much more contextual data. And this is being built by an ex Google DeepMind team. And they're building this data intelligence layer on top of us. And we're collaborating with them to use the internet bandwidth of people to go ahead and scrape this internet data. Because there is only so much you could do with like bunch of AWS infrastructure or your own infrastructure or a decentralized infrastructure. I think people's power is very important. Using people's bandwidth would enable you to scrape data on a much more higher bandwidth and scale. And that's the first phase of our testnet. And once we have this data pool available, which will act like a common pool for other models to fill in the gaps wherever it is necessary. And then the next step is to actually open up the data nets where we will let anyone go ahead and create their own data net. It'll be completely permissionless and start collecting data. This could be a subject matter expert or a business, as I told you before. There are few folks who are building already in our closed beta right now. There is a bunch of Ethereum community developers who come forward and build a Solidity data net on top of us where they're collecting Solidity data because they see that there is a need for a Solidity copilot. You need to have a Solidity model which understands Solidity better to build that. And then there is other team which is building a deepen data net where a bunch of deepen projects are coming towards and contributing their data, which they envision is to be useful for models which is better at image processing or like vision models and stuff like that. And then there is another data net which is around IP. A large media company is coming forward and bringing their licensed IP and encouraging people across the globe to contribute their licensed IP as well, so that you have licensed IP data sets which can be used for like media models. So all of these will be going live on our testnet, and they will start contributing data to that as well. So it's very excited. It's going to happen in the next few weeks as we start to announce each one by one. So it'll be a phased manner in which we'll go forward.
Great, looking forward for that. And you
Yeah.
personally, which use cases are you most excited about that OpenLedger allows?
Yeah, I think the most excited one is like we've had conversations with people who reached out to us who wanted to build a Web3 alpha data net where which basically provides you various exciting insights that's happening in the industry. I think it's very important for like Web3 industry, right? Because there is every day something else that is turning up. Like no one spoke about agents 2 weeks back, and all our news feeds is all about agents nowadays. So I think we are very excited for that. I think that a model and intelligence which provides you what's happening in the industry, not only Web3, once you're able to build for that, but every other industry, which just enable people to just get to know about what's happening, and which can be used for probably like trading, or it can be used for like better development. It can just be used for various other aspects, and to get to know industry trends, right? So someone has to build that, and we've been speaking with a couple of firms who wanted to do that. So hopefully that comes out as well. So I'm personally excited for that.
Awesome, awesome. My last
Yeah.
question would be, the testnet is right around the corner. You said 3 days. And what's coming for OpenLedger, let's say in 3 to 6 to 9 months?
So hopefully, the as the testnet goes really good and well, we would aim for going mainnet soon. We wish we had gone much more sooner because we are really excited with what's happening with the industry, and we want people to try our product. But it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort to actually build what we're doing. So mainnet probably in like 3 to 4 months time. We're working with a lot of exciting projects. There is a project which we're very excited about. It's working with the Dubai government, it's a Dubai tax authority, and we want to make sure that that comes out well as we go mainnet. And then we're working with a few other projects which are quite big as well. They're willing to use our platform, then they want to try it out. So we want to go mainnet and live for that. So the next biggest focus would be to go mainnet and then build ecosystem and let people use our product and see how it goes from there. So that would be the next biggest focus.
Yeah, great quote at the end. Thank you very much, Ram. It's been a pleasure to having you on the show. Looking forward to your
Thank you.
testnet and speak soon, hopefully.
Thank you. I enjoyed having this conversation with you. See you around.
Appreciate it. Bye.